All right, we're live. Welcome to the Akin Merino Network. We're so glad to have you. This month, Father's Day month, we do have fathers on the show with us today. We have three fathers, and one will join us shortly. We have three fathers who are representing the different types of generations that they have with their children, and also just different types of fathers that we have. We have fathers who are you know blended in they're working with remarriages. We have dad who travels. We have a dad who is works from the home. So we'll see. This is going to be very interesting. But before, I want to welcome you guys to the program. Jide, welcome to AMN.
Thank you
Jide
very much.
Craig
Very happy
and
to be here.
Soja Adeyemi, welcome to the
Yeah, thank you very
program.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and we're expecting Tope Abulude. But let me give you a proper introduction. So invite your friends, everyone. Invite everybody. We're talking about fathers today. They call me dad. So this is going to be interesting. Invite them. Invite your friends, your frenemies, anyone who needs to hear this. All right. So introduction. Let's start with engineer Adesoji Adeyemi was born. He even put his age here, Soji, on 29th May 1966 in the town in Ibadan to engineer Omotunde and Esther Adeyemi and Mrs. Esther Adeyemi. He did his primary school in Corona School Apapa from 1970 to 1976 and then proceeded to Federal Government College, Odogbolu, where he obtained his O levels in 1981. He then proceeded to Federal Government College, Ilorin, for his A levels before gaining admissions into the University of Lagos, where he obtained his BSc in civil engineering in 1989. After his NYSC in Kano, engineer Adeyemi worked briefly with CNC Construction High Tech before proceeding for his MSc Water Resource Engineering, which he obtained in 1994. With about 30 years in the water sector, Engineer Adeyemi is currently the managing director, Consadam Associates Limited, a foremost engineering consulting firm with various water resource I lost my resource projects ranging from water supply, sanitation, sewerage, solid waste, and irrigation projects designed and supervised all over Nigeria. He has also been involved in the development of the water policies and institutional reforms of some states, notably Lagos, Edo, Kano, and Federal Capital, and has also worked with various external support agencies, including engaging in the water sector like the EU, World Bank, and UNICEF. Some of the major programs he has been involved in includes the National Water Rehabilitation Program by the World Bank, and you look your CV is so extensive. Thank you for sending this to us. Yeah, and then of course he is a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers as well as the Association of Consulting Engineers in Nigeria. He is married to his childhood sweetheart, pharmacist Olayinka Adeyemi, and they are blessed with three children. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
Tukpa is here, so let's let him in, please. Hello, Tukpa. Welcome to the show.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you, right? Um,
Yeah,
it's,
thank you
it's
very much for having me.
You are welcome. I'm reading your bios. I just read Soji's bio. And
Yeah,
Jide Craig is an architect and design consultant and the MD of Virgin Designs Limited UK. His career spans over 25 years with numerous projects. He's married to Kelechi Craig with six children. Oh, we want to talk to you how you manage all those six children, right? Yeah. Uh, the Jide is a family-oriented man and has an undying love for music and plays the guitar. He currently lives and works in the UK. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Oh, see, we had a actually had a shorter version for SOG. I missed that. Sorry. And so then we have bio for Tokwe Abulude, trauma informed counselor, MBAC CP, that's member British Association of Counselors and Psychotherapists. Tokwe is a qualified integrative counselor, works with adults as well as young adults, experienced in general counseling and focuses on areas such as depression, anxiety, bereavement, stress management, relationship couples, relationship counseling, loss and bereavement. Yeah, that is your bio. Welcome to the show. But we know you also like, I mean, what happens to the balloonist part of this? Am I
Well,
missing
I was trying to keep it relevant to the
to
the
the
reason we're here today. If
all right.
that's
Thank you so much. What look at the CVs that are here. My goodness. Such a just awesomeness in this studio today. So let us talk about why we're here. Would you introduce yourself in terms of your parenting, who you are? I mean, in term not the CV I just wrote, but as a parent. So you're father of how many kids? If you're married, you're single, and let's just give us just a brief gist of your family situation so that we can move from there. We'll start with Jide.
Okay, thank you very much. As you have heard, my name is Jide Craig. I am married, actually remarried. So this is my second and final marriage, I must say. From my first marriage, I have three children: Olumide, Rotimi, and Ladi. The ages are between 24 and 21. And in my second marriage, my wife has three children of her own: Nasa, Karnia, and Tunde, from 22 years old to 11 years, or 22, 15, and 11. So I have a very wide spectrum of children to deal with.
So you have basically we call it a blended family, and you have staircase
Absolutely.
children's really. And
Mm.
so you have from 11 years, you said you have from
Up to
11
20,
years
24
to
years old. Yes.
24 years old, and you have a
Correct.
lot of 20s. How many of them are in their 20s?
Four of them are in their 20s now.
So you have four in 20s, and when you got divorced, how old
Mm.
were they?
The oldest was 16. So 16, 14, and 13. They were pretty young teenage years, but
So they
they
were
had
teenagers. That
they
must
were
have been
teenagers.
difficult. And we're going to talk about how you navigated that process in a minute. Let me just go through all the family history briefly. So we'll go with SOJ. Do you mind if I call you SOJ? That's what I call you. SOJ is we've been together for too long. Okay, SOJ, go ahead.
No problem. I'll just make it brief. Yes, I'm married to Olayinka Adeyemi. We have three kids. My eldest is 25, a girl. Then I have a second daughter that's 22, and then my little young son that is 13. Thank you.
And 13. All right. How long have you been married?
I've been married for 27 and a half years.
27 and a half years.
Yes.
Okay. Gidi, I forgot to ask you that. How long was your first marriage?
21
So 21 years, and the current marriage is
is 3 years now.
it's 3 years. Okay. All right. It's still in honeymoon stage. Do you get
Yeah,
to do honeymoon? Do you get to do honeymoon though with 6 kids?
it is not exactly easy, I must tell you, but we try.
But it's still doable. Okay. All right. Excellent. Talk back, go ahead.
yeah. So I think it's if you don't mind, I'll sort of give a bit of context of my parental family, um, and then go to my main family. So my dad and mum were married for 50 something odd years. Were married until my mom passed away 2 years ago. And so that's the kind of family I came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also relevance, as in dad to me and then
Mm-hmm.
me to the children.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm married to BJ. Everyone calls her BJ. Her name's really Bola Joko. For 27 years now. We've got three children. to the first. My first daughter is 25. My second daughter, Olumide, my second daughter, Femi, is 19. And my son, who is the youngest, is also 13.
All right. Thank you for bringing that. So you and S actually, uh, so
Similar.
you have the same, yeah, very similar in terms of the last
Mm.
born being a boy and the last one is
He's my
13.
running mate.
You all should help each other.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a very, for me, I'm so glad we're having this show today because fathers usually don't get a chance to actually talk, and to have three black guys on my show today having this conversation is even much more powerful for me. So let us start with the very easy question, and the question is, what is the role of a father in the family context? So, and I don't want you to answer this question in a broad sense. I would like for you to answer it personally. So, what is the role? So, take that A role out and put it your role. What is your role as a father to your children in your family? And who wants to go first? Who would like to take that first? So you want me to call names? Look at you all. You're not serious. All right, SOJ, go ahead.
Okay, basically, I took my role as a father from the standpoint immediately from the scripture that says, "He that cannot provide for his household is worse than an unbeliever." Straight away. So for me, providing for my family has been the hallmark of my fatherhood. I've always taken that as my very major, the major part of my fatherhood. Since we have so many questions, I have so many answers, so I just want to make my answers brief.
No,
I hope.
SOJ, don't make it too brief now.
Oh well, it's okay. I mean, yeah, okay. Let me just say that at least in the context of everything, that was my major concern about being a father. I felt that look, for me to be a father, I must first be a provider. Then, of course, when you look at provision to the family, of course, because it's a marriage and marriage is usually a physical thing, it was largely about physical provision. But then again, from the point of view of being a believer, I knew I also needed to provide for them spiritually and also provide for them emotionally. So clearly, I also recognize that apart from making sure I'm providing for them physically, I also had to make sure that I had to. My role as a father was also to stand. I don't want to be too spiritual, but as a king and a priest and a prophet, which means that they had to see in me, you know, direction for life, in every single way, and then also emotionally, which I had to learn over time because as a young man, I recognized that, yeah, young men are not usually emotionally stable. Over time, I developed emotional stability through maturity.
When you said that you had to provide direction for life, how do you do
Yes.
that
Well, providing direction for life is,
specifically?
yeah, to make it very practical. Direction for life meant I had to physically, I mean, in my day-to-day life, show them by example. First of all, Christian living. I had to show them by example, how to navigate, the daily, because many times in our churches, they teach us things that are theoretical. I had to teach my children how to live as a Christian does, not just from what we do in church in our day-to-day lives, how we relate to other people, how we love other people, how we stand for integrity, how we stand in life in every single thing we do, how our Christian faith must show in every single thing we do. So I had to set that example. And the first way I could do it was the way I related to my wife. That was, I believe, was the very first thing that my children would see.
Hmm. So, how did you relate to your wife? Give us example of what they saw.
Okay. Basically, Bible. Well, I don't want to use the word commands. The Bible says, "Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. The first thing I needed to do was to really recognize how Christ loved the church, by giving himself, for it. And then from my that revelation, I kind of translated it to, loving my wife, because of course, loving someone is not just a feeling. Loving, I mean, when the person does not do what you want, you still have to stand in love. So, sometimes love could be really tough, you know, but I got to a point that my children knew without a shadow of a doubt that, that their dad, truly loves their mom. I always use this example, when my wife and I had very serious marital challenges, and I was considering getting into an affair, because I need to be very open on this on this discussion. And I went to see my 22nd, I mean, my 22-year-old daughter was 12 then, and I went to visit her, with the plan that when I finished visiting her, I was going to fly to Abuja, to do something that I really ought not to do. And just before I left, my daughter calls me back and tells me that she would want to marry a man like me at 12. And I was, I was gobsmacked that, my goodness, why would you say that? So, and the response she gave me was, "Oh, because of the way you love mommy,"
Oh,
and it broke me down.
That was like,
No, 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 no. I mean,
yeah,
definitely from
that
that
was a
point,
knife.
yeah, from that point, whatever intentions I had to fly out of the window. So that's exactly what I'm saying. That even when sometimes when you're overwhelmed, God always
yeah,
kinds of,
yeah.
you know, gives
Out
brings
of the
help.
mouth of babes.
Yeah,
Honestly, that was so,
yeah.
but you
So,
know what?
so,
I
so
also have to say though, SOJ, because I know your wife. Your wife is also pro your relationship. You know what I mean? Like both of you are in this together, right? Like both of you are in this together. Yes.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm saying that because there might be husbands who are listening who are saying I'm doing everything to love my wife, but it's not working. So sometimes doesn't it take two?
Yes, to answer your question very categorically, I totally recognize that at a particular point, because I always, as much as I did my best to to make my marriage work, I always recognized that my wife needed to be a willing partner in the process. Because
Absolutely.
for me, I didn't belong to I don't really belong to the group of those who believe that, oh, no matter how it is, you just have to stick in there. I always believed, and I used to tell my wife, I said, look, if we're going to do something, let us do it extremely well, or don't let us do it at all. So I was also of the opinion that if she was not interested in me, if she was not pro my relationship, I would definitely would have let it go. So I need to make that
Yeah,
point very clear
yeah,
as
that's
well.
really important. Well done, well done. But your daughter saying calling you at that time, that was divine intervention.
Absolutely, absolutely. She herself, when she tells me, she says she does not know why she did it, but she just felt that way, and she was only 12 years old.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So, thank you for being open. This is one of the reasons I have all of you, the three of you here. You were specially selected. First of all, we know the integrity of your lives, and we know that what you're going to share is not fake. This is why we were very we needed particular people on the show. So thank you for gracing us. And you see, I wasn't wrong. So thanks, SOJ. G Day, you have a different take on this, not different in terms of what you're going to say, but different experience. So let us hear you. The same question goes to you. What is the role, or what is your role as a father in the lives of your children,
Okay.
especially during the marriage,
Mhm.
during the divorce, before you got married? If you can take us through that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'll first of all take a cue from my own father. Um, he was a very influential man. He was highly placed in society, Chief Justice of Ogun State and a Supreme Court judge. but he was a first son, and he had many brothers and sisters, also from different parents. I think my grandfather was pretty active. Let me put it that way. So we have quite a number of uncles from different mothers, but he acted as one who would gather them together, gather all his brothers and sisters, half brothers and sisters together, and kind of resolve issues and make things work out. Now, it wasn't particularly easy on his own marriage because my mother felt that she wasn't getting the full attention of my dad. But then she stuck it out, as back then, as most of the women back then would do. They stuck it out and
Mm.
make it work. And that was the example we saw. We saw a man who would be given, who would be loving, who would resolve issues constantly, a peacemaker.
Mm.
And so I grew into that slowly but surely. And I must tell you that I am an only son as well. And so I had
Wow.
6 sisters in front of me, and I also came last. Just like Tokwe and SOG were doing. They were looking for I don't know what they were doing with 24 and then 13-year-old, but we won't talk about that probably today. you know,
Hey, hey,
but
hey.
yes, but in my case, they were actually looking for a man, a male child. So they were going through the lines, and they were like, you know what, we have to get one. Eventually, my twin sister and I came into the world, and then they were able to settle down, hopefully. But the mom of my dad was pretty old. Well, I would say he was like in his 40s when he had me, and he was really busy. So I didn't really have that full attention. But when he was there, I mean, it was quality time. He was very athletic, played a lot of sports and all that. And I always went to watch his games. He'd give me baths and all that. So that bond was there. I didn't really miss out on the fact that he was a father figure, and he was a very terrible disciplinarian, as in very poor. I mean, he would beat us with newspaper when my mother would be like screaming at. That's why you beat a child. You beat a child with real cane, not with newspaper, rolled up newspaper. But it was all part of his way of showing that he loved us more than anything. He would speak to us, and by the time he was finished speaking to us, we'll be crying our eyes out, because he spoke into our hearts and to our souls rather than he believed in speaking and all that. So as a father, I picked up a lot from that, and I happened to have only boys in my first marriage, only boys, and I loved them. I wasn't looking for any female child. I didn't mind that I didn't have any female child, but I had only boys, and I loved them right from the very beginning. Their mother was extremely supportive, and also she loved them, and we raised them up as best as we could. But when things began to pear shaped, and when the strains began to come, I saw in particularly how it began to affect them. Because they saw family, they saw the cohesion, they saw the love, they saw our public life in church and in society, and in our private lives, and they were witness to all those things, and they saw the stresses, they saw who was trying, who may not have been trying, who was understanding, and we were very open with them. Through the different stages, we were very open and very candid. And when it began to take a strain on me, they would come to me and they would speak to me one on one. I'll say, Dad, this is taking a strain on you. What do you think you should do? And I particularly decided to stick it out,
Mm.
in spite of the strain it was causing me. I wanted to stick it out and make it last long, especially for them. But then
Mm.
I began to find out that it wasn't also a very good example for them. It's not about, it's about, you wait some things out, you hold out on some things, but you don't manage something that is actually slowly destroying you. And
Absolutely.
my pastor back then said something that touched me. She said, Jide, you are the only example your sons will see. And whatever you do and however you relate to what's going on and however you decide and make your decisions, they will take a cue from that, just like I took cues from my father.
Mm.
And so when it was time to make the call, prayerfully we went through all the counseling and all that. And I called them. I called a family meeting, and I told them this was what was happening.
Mm.
Even though they knew, but it was still difficult for them to handle and
Absolutely.
receive it. And they all sat down through it and listened attentively, and they said, okay, you know. Then they all went into their rooms and had a meeting amongst themselves, you know. And I was resolute at that time, but there was no physical altercation. There was nothing. It was just, things just didn't work out, and but I told them at that point in time that we would that whatever would happen, I would do everything in my power to always be dad to them, to provide for them, to do whatever is best for them, and that they wouldn't miss a day with me. The kind of attention, because the kind of father I was also a father. Well, let me put it like this: when they were in school, they would bring my children. They would bring all their friends to come and visit me. So their friends would come and flock around me. I recall one particular day when one of the friends said, he saw me relate to my son and he was like, he doesn't understand. Okay, I'd given my son my ATM card to use in school and he had lost it. So I just said, why did you lose it? Okay, I have to get another one. And the boy came up to me and said, Are you serious? I was like, why? He said his father would have slapped him right there in front of me. I'm like, really? So I was very careful to say, well, I said people are different, and he might have been having a bad day. He said, no, he's not. This is how he is. He's very horrible. So they would relate to me, and my sons were proud to say, this is my father. Come and get to meet him. And we'd have flocks of people come to our house. I have to buy them food and and all that and all that. I'm not trying to say I'm the perfect dad, but I'm just saying that's what happened. Anyway, long story short, we kind of went through the divorce period together. I remember, and one of my oldest son came. He was sent by his younger ones, and to come and ask me and say, am I really serious about going through this divorce, or am I just bluffing? I said, I'm actually serious and I need a break. So he said, why? And I explained, I said something to him. I said he should stretch out his hand, and I put a mobile phone on his hand. I said, is it heavy? He said, no, it's not heavy. And I said, let's walk for another 10 steps. I said, is it getting heavy? He said, yes. I said, but the weight of the phone hasn't changed. He said, no. I said, but your hand stretched out is making the phone heavy because you're carrying it alone. He looked at me, he said, Dad, I understand. I totally understand why you're doing what you're doing. I said, because I've carried a lot of things alone and it's really heavy and it's beginning to affect me in every way and all that. And so they were like, no problem, go ahead. And when it was time for the separation, I actually left, and I left my wife in the house and, provided and all that. And I said, I would move out because I don't believe in, I left everything. And they all said they were going to move out with me. And I'm like, yes, you're old enough to make it a job, but stay with mom. And they said, no, and that's how I ended
so
up.
you have your boys?
Oh yes, all of them. They all moved with me. They all came along with me. It's not to say or to disparage or say their mom is bad, but they I think at that time they just felt more comfortable with me. They were seeing changes in their mom at that time that maybe they couldn't relate with or they couldn't understand, and they felt a bit more safe, hanging around with me. And I was like, okay, I'm moving from a 4-bedroom duplex into a 1-bedroom. Said anywhere you go, we'll go with you. And of course, when I came into England, I brought them all here as well, and the rest is history. So yes, that's how. So for me, being a father, in answering your question, being a father has always meant gathering people together and in placing in them values, godly values, first of all, but not shoving it down their throats, allowing them to be able to make decisions because they're all individuals. And I think for me, it's an honor to be called a father to any human being, which is why for me, coming to a blended family, it was a no-brainer. It was very simple. Thankfully, thank God for my wife. She is a mother of mothers, so she was able to take everybody in. At the point there, we're going, this woman will die with her, and it was so amazing how everything just blended. It wasn't all that smooth, but it blended, seamlessly, much more than I thought it would be. And now I've had the opportunity to have the experience of raising a daughter, or 2 daughters, but the younger one is really close to me. And now I'm enjoying what a lot of my friends have enjoyed all along.
What SOJ you're doing? What are you doing this?
I'm doing this to say that,
Solidarity for
I have
daughters.
Oh,
two daughters. Yeah.
Yes,
solidarity for daughters. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. What a powerful story, Jide. So basically, you have not been separated from the children. Then, even during the divorce, they were with you.
absolutely.
They stay with you.
Yeah.
And how did you guys navigate the whole transition from the two parenting to living with you? I'm sure they were seeing their mom too, but they were primary. You were the primary caregiver, and
Yes.
also the transition into you getting married and now going from 3 to 6.
Well, I mean, they also have been able to. They were also they're friendly boys. They have a lot of friends. They have, But when when I moved out of the house and they came to live with me, it was like it was a boys' camp, And I wasn't like that. I was like, guys, the fittest, so we're all going to survive here. They were like, don't worry about it. You're an old man. You should be worried about yourself. Don't worry about us. So we're like pals, we're friends. We played video games together, and all that. I teach
Okay.
them, but I did teach them how to dance way back then. But obviously now I can't, I can't
Way back then.
exactly,
Now
I
they
can't
should be
see my
teaching
life.
you how to dance, right?
Oh, I have one of my sons has a huge following on TikTok. He does dance lessons and all that, you know yeah, so we were like, it was like a boys camp, and we enjoyed ourselves. And right from the beginning, I told them these were my intention, and I always carry them along, because I treat them like individuals, and I don't treat them like, oh, you're a kid, you won't understand, because in the day and age that we're in now, they are much more exposed than when we were growing up. So they know a lot of things, and they may not immediately share it, but they just want to wait for your cue. So I take them along. I study the scenario, and I take them along. And I told them how it was
Okay.
going to be, how things were going to be. I slowly introduced my wife to them. No rush or anything. I told them, look, this is what's going to happen. Well, Bible says it's not good for a man to be alone. I can't be roaming up and down. And they're like, yeah, we understand, no problems. As long as you're fine with it. I said, I'm fine with it. And slowly but surely, I introduced them one by one after the other, and they were able to love her, the same way I loved her. And she right from even when my sons and I were together alone, she just took over. I mean, she wasn't in the UK, we were in Nigeria, but you wouldn't know, because I mean, she spoke to them. They were always talking to her, and even when the issues of the divorce was hard, my first son, he tried to mask it because he didn't want to put the burden on me. He always put it on my wife, and she would tell me, Olumide is going through this. Olumide is having it a bit difficult. I've spoken to her. I've told my daughter to speak to him. I've spoken to him, sorry, and I told my daughter to speak to him. So they're talking, and he's expressing himself, and this is what's going on in his life. So it was back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes I'll call him, we talk, he'll put on a brave face. So it particularly hit him more than he hit the younger ones. But she was able to help him navigate and say, it's okay, things happen. This is life that happens. But you love your mother, you must not never, your mother is not the problem. Your father is the problem. That adults have issues, and sometimes they're not able to resolve it, and it happens like this. So she took them through that process.
All
And I
right.
must say, I was very fortunate to have someone who was that mature and who was able to, ease them
Yeah,
into, you know,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's within the context of family or relationships that we get wounded, but it's also within the context of relationships that we get healed.
absolutely,
A family there's nothing more relational than family. It's in those families sometimes we can get ourselves all hurt and all wounded, but when we get into healthy relationships, we can heal ourselves. And I think part of it is just talking through it, what's going on, how are you doing, talking to our children. I've heard that from both of you that have spoken. Just talking to them, making sure that you don't treat them as if they are children. Don't You don't have a voice. Children need a voice within those systems so they can be heard. So
absolutely.
thank you so much for being open. We really appreciate it. And Tope, you are the counselor, but also a papa, a father. So let us share with us what your concepts are and what is your
Okay. So I'm going to bring a little bit of theory in as well, if that's
Mhm.
okay.
That's perfect.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, theoretically, the role of a father, protector, provider, disciplinary. SOJ has talked about the provisional, a heart of a father, extensively. So I'm not going to go into that. One that just sort of grabs me as well, especially within culture and maybe the Black culture, is protector. You
Mm,
know, um,
good one.
father, the protector. I mean, and I'm going to talk from the perspective of both personal
Mhm.
and professional as well. From a
Okay.
personal perspective, I remember when my first daughter was growing up, and there was a situation with bullying in school. And if you I mean, ev- ev- my I can be nice, but you touch my children, and you know it's a whole different person you see. you know um and so there was this sort of whole bullying thing, and I just went to school, talked about it and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, that's that aspect of a father in protecting um our children, I think, is very key and is very important, and is one part where I've always been up there, speaking for, fighting for, if need be. And to go to the professional part of it, I mean, I'm not going to, it's just situations that I have seen is where, especially from an African perspective,
Mm,
we open up our homes to aunties, uncles,
mm-hmm.
um, houseboys, house girls, and stuff.
Mm,
And I mean, I'm sure it's the same with you, Dr. Marino. You've heard stories of what can happen, you
absolutely.
know. And so my question there is, where are we, the fathers,
Mm,
when your 14-year-old boy is being molested by an auntie?
Mm.
Where are we when the driver is touching the daughters? You
mm-hmm.
know, that area, I think, needs to be sort of paid attention to, and where what most of the people I then speak with, it's usually about they did not feel. I mean, some of the old adults I deal with in sessions now, uh, the trauma of what happened when they were 8, 12, 13, 15, because maybe there was, I mean, with some cases, he was an absent father physically. Sometimes he was an emotionally absent father,
Mm,
that allowed these sort of atrocities to be performed. So I think it's very key to be a hands-on father. It's very key to I think with every healthy communication, every healthy relationship, the communication is really what's the biggest there.
mm,
Talk to your kids and keep talking to them.
mm,
Keep your eyes peeled. And just be present as much as possible.
mm,
So that is, for me, very, very key, protecting. And, if you're, I mean, again, case in point, the whole story about boarding schools in our country, God's own country, back home in Nigeria, what's happening there. Do you talk to your kids regularly? Do you create a safe space where they can talk to you and communicate with you? We need to come away from all these subjects that we think are taboo. Talk to your kids about sex, because someone else is talking to them about it.
absolutely.
you know so for me, those things are key. I think a father's job, uh, um, in my head, is divided into two parts. We have the tender virtues of a father, which I would say things like grace, mercy, kindness, love, and forgiveness. There's a part of a father that has to um, be on board with all those things. You've got to love your kids. You've got to, speak their language. So, like, with the girls, a lot of touch, hugs, and stuff like that. With the boys, a bit of rough and tumble. My 13-year-old boy, he walks past me, I give him a kick. What am I really saying? Do you understand? It's I love you. I ruffle his hair, even though he spent like 45 minutes getting it in shape. It's like, what am I really saying? What are they hearing? It's I love you. So even if you're not saying it, you're saying it. So those are the tender virtues of a father, and I think sometimes that's what a lot of us Black people lack. The tender virtues of a father, being able to communicate with our children the love that we have for them. Now, the tough virtues are no less important. The tough virtues, is call your kids out in truth. It may be something as simple as brushing your teeth, regularly at night. Justice. And this may be something you need to disseminate even within the family. Righteousness and holiness. Call them upon these things. And these are the tough virtues that a father has to disseminate. Depending on the circumstances, and I think these things are obviously that's the disciplinary part of the father. So. To go back to where Suje started, which is provision, I think Father, the
But so
disciplinarian.
can you hold on, please? Let me
Yeah,
just stop you because we need to clarify something that you said. Somebody also brought it up on the talk. I mean,
yeah.
on the messages. When you go to the tender virtues, you said that you show it to the kid, and they're taking you up on that and say that it is also important to say it, not just to
Oh,
show.
absolutely. No, no, no. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. But also, we come from different backgrounds, and if you start off finding it difficult to say it,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps from a cultural perspective,
Mm-hmm.
then show it.
Okay.
There you can show it. I mean, I think in the Western culture it's a lot easier to just go I love you, and give them a head hug and give them a kick, that kind of, with the boys, I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely, say it. That's
if you
not.
are if you are struggling to say it to your children, it's
Yeah.
because either a cultural reason or
Yeah.
some type of trauma in your own lives
Hmm.
that is you're struggling with. The
Yeah.
best gift any parent can give to their child is to heal their own childhood wounds. So if you're
Mm.
listening to us and you're struggling with showing affection and struggling to show affection to your children, please get some help in that way. All right. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you, Tonga. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, just in summation, starting from where Sujay start, the provider, I talked about the protector and also the disciplinarian. I think that sort of, for me, encompasses the job of a father. Yeah. And yeah, that's
All right. Thank you
in
so
a
much. And
nutshell.
thank you for honestly adding to the body of knowledge and helping us to. I love what you said about the tender virtues. Oh my goodness, isn't that such valuable addition to this conversation? Because some fathers can be so tough that they forget that the children are human beings who need to be tender, do need to be attended to. And you said grace, mercy, kindness, forgiveness. Did you just be nice to your kids? I stop treating them like commodities.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something else. I think
It's
sometimes.
not a competition. Just,
Absolutely not a competition, and just treat them as if God put them in your care. right? And if you see them as that you are preparing human beings who God has given you, I think we're going to have a different approach to our children. Being mean to children is just unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Right, just unacceptable. If you and okay, so there's a question here, or a thought, not a question. It says, and it flows with what we're saying. So I want to bring it up since you're all African, you're living in different parts of the globe, but and that's that's what's common with all four of us. So in Africa, it is an unwritten law that it's the woman that should take care of the kids. And so you find, so basically, SOJ, one of the first things you said was that I'm a provider. So a lot of African men take that literally, as that's the only call in life, to provide finances. So as long as I am giving you money to send you to school, as long as there's food on the table, I build a house for you, as look, and those things are happening, then I am providing. Uh, However, provision goes beyond shelter. It goes beyond food. It also has to do with emotional provision, like you said. How am I providing for them, emotionally, psychologically, socially? I have children who in my practice will come where they just don't even have any social cues. They don't know how to act in public because they were never taught. They just don't know. You'd have to teach children a lot of things. So what are your reactions as Black fathers? What would you say to this statement that women should be the one to take care of the children?
Okay, let me go with that. Um, let me start by saying I'm fully in Nigeria, and actually a different trend between my generation and the younger generation. Maybe I should refer to them as the social media generation. So so the this statement that women should take care of the kids is something that was resident in my own generation. Because basically in my children's generation right now, especially even in Nigeria right now, we're actually having the exact opposite problem that is taking place right now. Because
No.
right now, yeah, because right now, a lot of the women have actually been empowered. A lot of young women today have gone to school, they're educated, they've got good jobs and everything. Meanwhile, the young men have not fed as well. So the young men are actually giving up a lot in terms of the issue of provision. In fact, you'd be amazed to find that it's happening so much in my church right now. A lot of the young men are actually looking for women that actually can do the provision. You know, they are even ready to. They're ready to even take a back seat. So I mean, the
So we're talking
statement.
about SOJ. So we're talking about let's define who we're talking about, because they're different. When you say social
Yeah,
media,
I
let's
think
define
Gen
them.
Z
The
or millennials?
yeah, talking
yeah,
about,
the
they have to
millennials.
be millennials, because Gen Z are not. Most of them are not getting married yet. So
Okay.
you're talking about millennials. Okay, okay.
Yes. I'm actually talking about the millennials. Now, I want to dovetail into, I want to address that issue, but also dovetail into something that I think is also relevant to our discussion. My own upbringing has been slightly different from the other two gentlemen
Mm,
because the two gentlemen, I believe, were raised in monogamous marriages. I was raised in a polygamous home.
mm,
My father had three wives and 11 children, and I bore the brunt of childhood trauma. Just as you were talking,
mm,
I lost my virginity at 13 to a relative. So
mm.
the only thing I can say, I mean, at this particular point, that I think it's only my getting to know the Lord Jesus Christ that could have actually transformed me to be able to look at my past, to heal, and to also make sure that I address the situation in future. The perspective I'm trying to bring in here is the fact that, especially with the statement that was made earlier about women, that that general idea. For me, looking at how my dad had acted in the past, my dad was, like you said, a strong provider, but he was totally absent in my upbringing. Totally absent. I learned everything I learned, on the streets, and of course, I learned quite a lot of pretty bad stuff, you know. And my poor mom, was also a bank manager, so she had to go to work during the day. So there was actually no one, you know. We were actually left to on our own. I had to find out who I was and how to develop who I eventually became. So in terms of women taking care of the kids, I personally believe that that seems to have changed right now. And even if you're going to put it to even my colleagues in my own generation now, I see that, especially when I look at Tope and Jide, from their experiences and even from my own experience, that we have been a lot more hands-on in our relationship with our children. I mean, my dad and I would have a maybe 30-second conversation once a month. That was how bad it was. But for me and the kids, because at the beginning of the program you talked about the fact that because I travel a lot, I'm in Benin at the moment, you know but I speak to the kids every single day. And once I'm in Ibadan, you know every social life in Ibadan is turned off. The whole weekend is spent with the children. We go out together, we go watch movies together. So I know a lot about the children, even more than their mom does. Sometimes the children will wait until I get back to be able to share some, intimate stuff with me. So, it shows that at least in our generation, I think we might have fared much better than our parents in terms of our relationship with our kids.
Hmm. Well, I'm not sure. I think in our generation, maybe the groups that we belong to, but I've also heard so many horror stories from people in our generation who have taken over I'm just giving you money, you take care of the children, and I'm out of here. Um, so so I'm glad that we're having this conversation so you can speak to those we can speak and to those fathers who either you are in generation X or millennial or whatever generation you are. The most important value you can add to your children is the gift of yourself.
I think balance is extremely important in raising children. Extremely important. Um, I've seen and I've been in situations where children were raised by their mothers and they did not have the right balance. Sometimes it was loss of confidence. Sometimes, and when they're raised by their father, the females become very hardened and they're very tough. And, by the time they're growing up and meeting other males, they become too strong and too brash, especially when the other male they're meeting was raised by their mother and that male is soft and everything. The way I tried to handle mine practically was, like I said, my father wasn't exactly there, but when he was there, I knew when he was there, but he wasn't. He was always very busy and going on tour, and my mother was always there. And so what I decided, and I spoke to my wife, my first wife, from day one, I said, I'm going to be there for the boys. They're going to see me. I'm going to be furniture. They're going to come in and they're going to see me every day. So I decided from the very get-go that I would be working from home. It wasn't very easy in the beginning, but I stuck it out and I became a feature in their lives. They knew that whatever happens, this man will always be there. They could always talk to this person, and mom and dad were always in the future. I know it's not something that is possible for everybody to do, but I decided that because I had three boys, and I needed to instill those values early on. We hear a lot of people talking today and saying that we're asking girls to be nice and to cross their legs and to be modest, but who teaches the boys? Why
Hmm.
are the boys running amok? And I
Absolutely.
thought to myself, these boys will not run amok. I will do my best as much as I can to make sure that they have a deep respect for women, like I did, because I grew up amongst girls, and understand that they are actually there to help you make your life better. Now, coming into my second marriage, it was slightly different because now they were raised without a father figure. And I immediately saw the challenge straight away, and they saw the challenge, saw the difference between my children and them. But the beauty of it was that they were willing to learn, even with me having to raise a daughter, and I say a daughter because the older girl is old. I mean, she's old, but the younger girl, who is like 15, was still being formed at that time. She was around 11, 12 at that time. So she was still she was still grappling with, who is this guy? Can I trust him? Can I relate with him? And I was like, I don't, the laws in the UK, you can't touch a girl anyhow. You can't. So I was like, how do you do this? But then again, I think because I am always present, I'm always there. They see me every time. They see the way I relate with their mother. Even when we're having disagreements, they see the way it's handled. There's no argument. There's no crazy madness going on in the house, and they see that there's still that deep love and this deep respect. So they're taking cues from all those things, and it begins to help them to determine and decide that this person is a safe zone. So I think that balance is very important. It's not, because I've seen boys raised by their mothers who are so soft. They not strong. They don't have that gruff in them. They're just nice and flowery, and you don't want that in a man, especially today. You want nice stuff, because the women are really, really out there. They're tough. They're achieving so much. They're kicking ass, for the want of a better word. So you want that balance to be there, and I think that's how I try to marry both of them, and it worked in my first marriage with my children, and it's working in this one. They see me at home, they're able to love on me. I mean, my daughter would come and sit on my back, and just share with me and say, look, this guy likes me, this guy likes me. And I'm like, yeah, but this guy, I don't like the way he talks. We just make fun of him. He looks like a Dorito, and then we laugh. But they're able to come and say, I have a safe place. I have a safe zone to come and talk to this man. So that's how I think it may work. Balance is what I would say.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. We only have, time has gone by so quickly. We have 3 minutes left. Before we have any last words for people. So we'll start with talk by just what do you want people to take away from this program today, from you, that you haven't already said? Any last words?
Okay. I mean, I'm just going to reiterate what I said earlier about being protectors of our kids. Keep your eyes peeled. Fathers out there. Be the provider, like SOG said. Be the discipliner and find the balance, like Jide said. Between being tender and being and being tough when you need to be. But certainly out there, be your children's champions. Let them know that you're fighting for them.
Right.
There is something about I mean, I remember something again happened in my daughter's school, and she came home and said, "Oh, don't tell." I just said to my wife, "Don't tell Dad, because he's just going to go to school and and do that." But there was something for me in there that was quite, made me quite proud, because I wasn't taking any nonsense. I'm not going to be dealing with my child's trauma when they're 18 because some idiots did something. And that's I mean, I'm sure again, boarding schools and stuff like that. One of the reasons I didn't put my kids in boarding schools, because I don't feel comfortable about it. It only takes one, again, idiot, to do something, and you're dealing with that. So please talk to your children. Communication, the bedrock of any and every relationship, whether it's spousal or children. Talk.
Thank you so much. Okay. You got just 1 minute.
Seconds. Yeah, no, I'll do it in 15, 20 seconds. I just want to use the opportunity.
3 seconds.
To the guys that have had wounded and traumatized childhoods, they should recognize that nothing is impossible. They can always heal from their childhoods and not transfer the challenges they've had, to their children. I'm a living testimony to that, and I know that my children are blessed. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. And 20 seconds, Jide.
It's an honor to raise children. It's not to deal with human beings in general. So I think understand that you may be at fault, but love everybody as much as you can. Just live like that.
Thank you. All
Thank
right
you.
then.
Thank you so much. This has been so powerful. Please stay on for just 1 second. And thank you for joining me till next time. Hopefully, you can come back and do a part 2 to this at some point. You have really enlightened us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Hold on.
Bye.
End the broadcast.